We are very happy to be doing this event, and I'll say a little bit about Orinam, which is a non-profit, unregistered collective of people from the LGBTIQA community in Chennai and elsewhere in Tamil Nadu. We've been around since 2003, and our work includes advocacy, archiving queer and trans resources, cultural programming, and we are really happy to partner with Prajnya on these initiatives. So today we'll be talking about the violence of heteronormativity. Typically, when we're discussing family violence or domestic violence, we think of a lot of very overt forms of violence. But now, today, what we thought we would do is just speak about the expectations, rules, and conventions associated with the expectations associated with marriage, with childbearing, with gender roles, with patriarchy, etc., that can themselves impose violence on those of us who are not cis or not straight. So I'm very happy to welcome the panelists. I will start off with introducing Maya. Maya Sharma is from Vikalp Women's Group in Vadodara, Gujarat. She has been a long-time activist for women's rights and queer rights. She's the author of the 2006 book Loving Women, Being Lesbian in Underprivileged India, which is now in its second edition. So, Maya, welcome to this panel, and we'd love to hear from you about issues of queer women, the historical development of the queer movement, the invisibility. Perhaps you could speak a little bit about your work with women in rural areas and in indigenous or tribal communities. And we'd love to hear your way forward. Over to you, Maya.
So that's a long line you've given me, Ramki. I hope the others will pick up in the panel. But to begin with, I just want to begin with heteronormativity. It's such a widespread net that it completely ensnares you, so much so that people like us who identify as queer also we have it inside and outside us, that it makes a lifelong struggle to understand it and to constantly fight it, as well as fight it outside. And major about heteronormativity is that if you look at the institutions that it embeds, it's generally the gender roles of or the division of men and women completely, and the division of the roles, and then the biological difference to automatically make one subordinate and the other superior. And so it is also very closely linked to patriarchy, in the sense of men always dominating and women being unequal. And that this kind of a system completely invisibilized the queer women. And initially, when we were finding our own feet, it was very difficult to really see that women who loved women were out there, but we did not have except the experiences which found no echo outside ourselves, and to recognize us. So we did not even have the language. Consequently, there was a complete invisibility. But as we started to work, we realized that these women indeed were breaking out of these, and perhaps were so mingled with the structure that we failed to see them. And I would like to talk of how Dalit women were marriage the absolutely important, or the constituent which makes patriarchy so rampant, is where the women had made use, because Dalit people don't see, or even the tribal don't see it as a sacred thing, and that it has to be once for a lifetime done thing. So a lot of Dalit queer women that we interacted with actually had married, separated, and were living with their partners, whether as neighbors or as a lifelong commitment, or as simply as friends. So we needed a different kind of a perception, a prism to look at these women. But let me know, Ramki, how long am I to go on this?
Go ahead.
Okay. So this kind of invisibility created a lot of other issues, I would also like to mention the tribal women who sort of actually made arrangements with their brother that you marry the woman I love, and then we'll be able to live together. And so it transpired that the brother married another woman, and these women till date are living together. And this I'm talking about Gujarat. So I would at the same time like to mention that what I'm speaking about is basically based from my field work. It doesn't encompass a large reality, but this is from where I'm speaking from my field experience. Also, I realized that we've always been seeing masculine women. Earlier, we did not have the terminology of transgender. The terminology that we first had was lesbian, which was actually coming from urban centers. But in UP during my research, I used to hear the word rangli, which was a relationship between women and women. But for transmasculine people, the word that was used was often babu or bhai. And these women were generally called Mardani Aurat. It's much later as we began to organize and get used to and familiar with the word transgender that a whole lot of other issue emerged. And we realized that transmasculine people, to a certain extent, enjoy a level of acceptance, of affirmation, because of the nature uh, of their ability to dwell both the worlds, the private and the public spheres, and in a sense contribute economically to the family. And so in many rural parts of our where we work, for example, even a Patel family was able to recognize and give space to this trans man because he was the masculine person, the only masculine person who could inherit the vast lands, the agricultural lands they have, and the daughters were all married off. So it made sense for the Patel family to accept him as well as the larger village. With reluctance, you do see a level of acceptance for transmasculine, but it is the partners that we work with have the hardest time ever because and I'm not saying that the transmasculine do not have a hard time because they have also faced homelessness, uh, violence, and a lot of other issues with the state. But relatively speaking, if I can say so, from my work experience, is that their partners have a very hard time in terms of being dismissed from property rights, from never being able to return home, uh, extremely violent, and of course, forced marriage, which then ends up for the couple to leave no other way but to elope and find a space for themselves, which again is very troublesome for both for the couple because you're in an unfamiliar surrounding. All the social capital that you've had earlier is no longer there for support, and of course, the outer world to is not very supportive. So I would say that overall, this heteropatriarchy system completely marginalizes the queer experiences because it is so divided in men and women pockets and the roles which play up in daily lives. For now, I think I've had my say.
Sure. Maya, would you like to share something about your personal journey and your encounters with heteronormativity that we were speaking about earlier?
Well, my personal life is actually because marriage is so embedded in your daily life that I had to get married. And when I did get married, I also produced a son, which was like the best thing you could do on this earth. But my my love for women basically got me into a lot of trouble in school to begin with, and then later on in my workplace as well, in my married life as well. But in my workplace, uh, in one of the women's groups, we were at that point of time asked not to raise the issue because it would unsettle a lot of other issues. And later on, even when I moved to trade union, uh, the I had just come returned from my field work, and I realized that most of these women, transmasculine and women who live women, join the uh, the rebellious religious current that we call the Bhakti movement, and there women could dress in the form that they liked, which for women is very difficult. So they could wear dhoti, kurta, and live with the women as well, and pass by as a bhagat of the particular current, like Ram Snehi Bhakt and all. Later on in my research, I also saw that with couples who were eloping were running to these religious places, and I think this is. And so when I came for this, I attended a conference, and I was very happy to share my experience, because this was an eye opener for me too. And I think the rest of the people in the conference, we had a very enjoyable session. But even before I reached my workplace, I was told that you lower the prestige of our organization by talking about such issues. And pretty soon, within months, I had to quit. And trade unions don't really tell you to quit, but they do it in a way that you have to quit. So I think this is another way of being violent, which is not direct, but very indirectly you are told to ease off and put sort of get lost. And I got lost, but I found myself in the process, and here I am, still recovering myself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maya.